Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the season premiere of the WSE Lounge. The last time we were on was with wrestler Chad Big Bank Barfield. That was back in May, and now we're back here for the season premiere of the WSE Lounge. And right now at this time, I want to welcome my guest. He's known to many fans all around the world from One Life to Live as Robert Ford. I want to welcome right now at this time David A. Gregory to the WSE Lounge.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, everybody.
You're welcome, David. It is such an honor to have you on. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time, as well as the stars of One Life to Live. I got to tell you, when One Life to Live was on the air, that was my show. I mean, that was the number one show to me. I mean, I did watch the other soap operas as well that were on the air, but One Life to Live was nonstop drama and nonstop excitement to me every day. And I don't really think that I remember a time when it got boring or when it got dull. I mean, it was just great from the chemistry that all of y'all had, and it was awesome.
Oh, I really appreciate hearing that. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Now, can you tell me about, because usually I start off asking if somebody comes on, they're an actor or a wrestler or singer. I ask them how they got into it, but on this occasion, I want to ask you, can you tell me about your inspiration of Jerry Lewis and you dressing like him in a look-alike contest?
Yes, I did. Well, I suppose any actor will tell you that at least this is the case for me. I've always wanted to do this ever since I was a kid. I don't really remember a time where I didn't. And once I kind of got bitten by the bug, I never took my sights off that. And one of the things was, I grew up in a pretty small town in Fairbanks, or in Alaska, called Fairbanks. And it was a big deal when I was 8 years old when the first Blockbuster Video opened up there. So they had this look-alike contest where people could dress up as some famous character, and the person who looks the most like their character would win I think it was a trip to Disney World. It was a pretty big deal. So I had, before I had braces, I had these pretty crooked teeth, and I put on a suit and tie and loosened the tie and wore the shoes on the wrong feet, and just like Jerry Lewis, got
Yeah.
goofy glasses. And I won the comedy division, but only because nobody else entered the comedy division. So I got some kind of runner-up prize. I think the winner that day was a little boy dressed up as Sebastian from The Little Mermaid. But it was just a time where I think any actor will tell you now that we're still just playing dress up, and we're just happen to be getting paid for it. So not a whole lot changed. I'm still the goofy kid deep down inside. And here we are today. I mean, those experiences as a child shape you for how you are as an adult. And as long as people kept encouraging me in that direction, I was still thinking that I could do this for a living.
Well, that's a great way to start out, though. To know that you wanted to be an actor that way. Starting out with Jerry Lee Lewis as an inspiration to you, and I know there was also another actor that was also an inspiration to you. I can't recall his name, though.
I grew up, I think the big three for me were Jerry Lewis, Jimmy Stewart, and Jack Lemmon. I remember watching Jack Lemmon in a movie called The Great Race that my dad showed me when I was a kid. The movie's from 1965, and the big sell with this movie is that Jack Lemmon plays actually two roles. So he plays the villain. The whole movie is about a race from New York to Paris in these cars in the early 1900s. Nice, big, sprawling comedy. It's about 3 hours long. Tony Curtis plays the good guy. Jack Lemmon plays the bad guy. But they end up going to this one province in Europe Stewart when I watch him. And, of course, there's It's a Wonderful Life and the Westerns.
Yeah.
He's just a great actor.
Yeah, I love the movie The Wonderful Life, and I have to check that movie out you were talking about. You said it's called The Great Race?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. Now you graduated with a bachelor of music in music theater from Baldwin Wallace College in Berea, Ohio. Now, do you do a lot of singing beyond acting?
Well, it's something, growing up in Fairbanks, the majority of my opportunities were in dance and in musicals in the town I grew up in. And so that was kind of all I really knew. I went to college to get this music degree in musical theater because I felt like my singing and my musician skills were the thing that I could use the most work on at the time. I think about sophomore year of college, I was doing a Shakespeare production, and I sort of had the realization that what I really wanted to be above everything was an actor. And my priorities were sort of shifting, and I obviously wanted to stay at the school and complete the program, but I didn't know if I would be particularly suited to only do musicals. I don't think many actors just want to do one thing. I think the best thing you can do is kind of train in every area so that you can open your opportunities.
Uh-huh.
So musicals, I've done a couple since there are a couple opportunities to sing and do things like that since college, but more than anything, what I wanted to be was an actor, and it didn't really matter what genre that was in. Getting a great job on a soap opera a year out of college was a wonderful opportunity that I didn't expect.
Uh-huh.
And we ended up getting to sing on that show anyway, so it all kind of worked out. But I'm thrilled with how things have worked out. I love working in television. It's something I wouldn't trade for anything. And if musicals come up again down the road, I'd be happy to do it. I did a play up in Connecticut a couple years ago, and I think an actor just wants to work and do good work. So, however genre that ends up being, whatever genre that ends up being is okay with me.
Well, speaking of singing and stuff, I do have to say that I do remember you on I believe you were part of the Star-Crossed Lovers on One Life to Live and the musicals that they did on there. Yeah, I remember that, and I thought that was so awesome. Y'all did such a great job at that, and but we'll get into One Life to Live in just a few minutes. But before we get into One Life to Live, and I want to let the fans out there know, if you got any questions or comments for David A. Gregory, who used to play Robert Ford on One Life to Live, please leave your comments and questions below, and I will direct them over to David A. Gregory, and he'll be glad to answer any questions or comments you may have. And I hope that you'll leave them below so that we can answer your question, or he can answer your questions. Now, before we talk about One Life to Live and your other projects, let's talk about something that is very dear to you. Now, you can correct me if I'm mispronouncing this. It's a condition called gynecomastia.
Oh yeah. This is it's called gynecomastia.
Uh-huh.
It is a condition where young men develop extra breast tissue, usually either in their puberty years, so say 10, 11, 12, 13. Also, most men, there's like a second puberty. I didn't know this, but there's another surge of that in your early 20s to late teen years, and so this can often occur during that time too. I would suppose, just based on talking to a doctor quite some time ago, but more men are going through this than I think people realize. completely perfect descriptions of this, but there can be an increase in breast tissue in the male, and I was told sometimes it goes away with age, and sometimes it doesn't, and it has to be removed. And so, ironically, this is something that I think I was dealing with my sophomore year of college, so this would have been way back. And I didn't know what it was at the time. It started to affect the way I worked out at the gym. I just couldn't do certain things because, it was either painful or uncomfortable. And finally discussed it with a doctor who said, this could end up going away. And ended up getting worse over the course of the next year and a half, so I ended up having to have surgery to get it removed. And, I was lucky in the sense that I was sort of in my early 20s. I would say was still coming into who I was, but I wasn't sort of worried about what other people might think because of this. And my whole platform in discussing it is that there are young children that deal with this at a much younger age, especially. And kids can be very cruel to other children in school or when they see each other outside of school, and so I thought it was important to bring it to light, to discuss it in the sense that it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody, but to not let that affect who you are as a person. And so there's young children I know that have experienced it, but it doesn't define who you are. It also is treatable. It is something that can be fixed. But like I said, young kids can be very cruel with things that they don't understand. So it's easy to get picked on or whatever. I was told that when I ended up getting this removed, at the time we had to make sure it wasn't cancerous. That was just a formality. But the doctor had said that if we waited much longer, it might have adhered to the muscle, and it would have caused me to have most of my pectoral muscle removed. And post all of that was when I started doing, sounds silly, but more scenes shirtless or without certain articles of clothing on. So I have a doctor up in Alaska who was my surgeon, who I have to thank for that. But also, I think the idea that most people would never know that the surgery that I had, because you can't really see the scar, is a testament to the kind of medicine that we have today. But also, sort of, I wanted to give people hope that if this was something that they had to deal with. I've talked to a number of men my age or younger who have dealt with it. Have asked me about the surgery and have asked me about how to proceed. And of course, I'm always very supportive about it because it's something that I've been through myself, and I know unless you've kind of been through it, you don't really know how scary or troubling it can be. What's happening in my body? What's going on? So it's something that I'm always game to talk to people about when asked, and I think I'm sort of an example of what can happen if things go well with that situation. So yes, it's very important to me, especially with young boys.
Now, staying on this topic, let me ask you, what would you say to young boys out there who do experience that, but they also, like the parents of young boys, they worry about the bullying in schools because of it? Is there like a prevention or something they can do to stop the bullying from taking place? I mean, I know that bullying is a real bad thing.
Well, we're seeing things, where I saw an article the other day that was discussing this young man who took his own life after being bullied.
Oh no!
It's so much more sensitive at that age than I think it is at your 20s. Unfortunately, there's no way to I can't address someone who's doing the bullying saying, hey, if you only understood, this is the reason why it's happening.
Oh yeah,
Anybody, but especially children, they are scared of what they don't understand. So if they see see someone who looks different than them, God forbid that they say the wrong thing and it really hurts somebody.
Yeah.
So my whole thing has been to be the voice that supports whoever's going through it and their parents. And say, oh no, I totally understand what this is. Because a lot of times it's just scary knowing what is this and why is this happening to me. And I'm not a doctor, but I also I have been through it. So I think the most important thing is to know that there's a solution, but B, it's also temporary, and that it's not a defining characteristic, throughout your life. And the biggest thing for me that helped me understand was just knowing more about what it was. And again, sometimes we live in a very cruel situation. We have to go through a very cruel situation where people will say things that they don't have any idea what they're talking about. And
Yeah.
so my whole thing is to flood that situation with the positive and to say, let's talk about what this is and help you understand so that you can rise above that. It's just like an airplane getting above clouds, in a rainstorm. It doesn't mean that the storm doesn't exist anymore. It just means you're above it. I think that's maybe the safest. I'm no expert, but I would imagine that'd be the safest way to begin, at least.
Okay. So this condition is treatable. So it is something that can be treated if caught in time. Correct?
To my knowledge, from my experience, yes.
Okay.
Yes, very much.
And
often
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say that from what I understand, at least my doctor said, it can also just go away over time.
Okay, and the other question I got for you, is there a website that people can go to out there to learn more about this condition?
Boy, that's a great question. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I know I did a lot of Googling. Of course, if you stare at WebMD for too long, you'll think you're...
Oh, yeah.
You'll think you're having a heart attack.
Yeah. I've been there a lot of times, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's important. I mean, obviously, research is important, but the most clarity I got was just by seeing a doctor. And again, I'm someone that I was sort of scared to find out what is this, what's happening. So it took me a little while to get to the doctor as far as my psyche goes. Okay, I'm finally ready to admit that I need to see someone to talk to about this. And when I finally did, any answer, regardless of the outcome, is helpful for breathing a sigh of relief. So the moment you have answers that are diagnosed or addressed by a doctor, I think is the most important.
Okay, well, thank you so much for talking about that and everything, and you being who you are and bringing awareness to that. It's great because I know Maurice Bernard. When he came on the show, he brought awareness to the bipolar disorder. About that, and because he has bipolar and he deals with that on a daily basis, and so that's. And he enjoys being an ambassador for it, and I know that that's something that is near and dear to you, this condition, and you enjoy being an ambassador for that, to reach people and let them know about it. Want to let all the fans out there know if you're viewing this live broadcast and stuff looks a little hazy or fuzzy, I don't know what's going on. It's usually clear. I mean, everything is clear, but it just looks fuzzy looking. I don't know what's going on, but I'm glad that everybody can see me though, and can hear David A. Gregory talking. If anybody has any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I'll get to them, and I'll ask David, and he'll be glad to answer your questions or mention your comments. How did you get the role of Robert Ford on One Life to Live?
Oh, that's a good story. I have been going through a time where I was having a difficult time finding work as an actor, and I think any actor will tell you that they go through periods of ebbs and flows. And I remember going in for the casting director, Julie Madison, here in New York.
Uh-huh.
And but I had a gut feeling that I could really have a shot at this. Of course, I show up for the meeting, and there's probably 15 or 16 other guys there. And I thought, oh man, there's a lot of people here, and this is pretty the whittled down version. So a lot of times after they're told, well, if you get the call back, that's a good sign. But sometimes you still want to get the job, and if there's that many guys sitting in the waiting room, it can be tough too.
Well, that's very interesting on how you got that role, and like you said, it can be nerve-wracking, if you got a lot of people waiting to audition for a part. You're like over here like, okay, come on, let me get it, and so
half the battle is keeping your head on straight. It can be tricky. So say that. So I remember reading for Frank, and that was it. There was nothing further on that, and I got on a train to go home. And by the time I got above ground at my stop, I had a voicemail from my agent. She said, "You got the job," which was a big celebration, of course. But at the time, we didn't know that the show, at least my involvement with it, didn't know that this was going to be a long-term thing. It was just be a few episodes over a couple of weeks, which ended up doing, I think, 3 weeks of work, something like that. Which you can shoot a lot of episodes for soap in 3 weeks, and I think then there was a lull for about 2 months, maybe even a month and a half, not too long.
Uh-huh.
And then I got a call early September saying they want you back and they want to push you on the contract. And I remember exactly where I was standing. I was standing in Harlem on my way to the gym when I got that phone call. And that phone call was a big triumph because that meant steady work. And as an actor, that's the goal. That's what you want, steady work.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And speaking of that, I remember going to the Fantasy Weekend this past weekend, and Robert Palmer-Watkins, who played Dylan Quartermain, he was saying that there's a lot of dialogue on General Hospital, of learning the stuff you say and all that. You got like a certain amount of pages you got to say. So on One Life to Live, did you have to memorize all that dialogue? Did you have it written down on a cheat sheet, or how did that work?
It's funny you say that. Kind of goes back to the actors that I enjoyed watching as a kid. I had this little game I played with myself where I would envision, based on the style of the writing, who in my head would do this scene the best. And so some days I'm like, let's say Jimmy Stewart, right? So I would think, okay, how would Jimmy Stewart play this scene? Not to impersonate him, but to think, sort of as a jumping off point, how would I approach this scene if I were someone else, right?
Yeah.
Another actor that admired. And that is what helped me sort of get into it a little faster. When I first got on the show, I didn't have as much to do right away. And then when that first summer rolled around, they started putting my storyline a little bit more in the forefront, which is something pretty typical for soaps to do the younger storylines a little bit more prominently in the summers, because that's when the school's out, so there's a younger audience more often watching. And that's when we started going home with 40 and 50 pages a day and really working at it. And I would just run it as often as possible and make sure I was memorized before I go to sleep. And if I wasn't, I'd wake up in the morning earlier and work on it again and get to the studio early and run it again. And so by the time we got on the set, it was almost second nature. The words felt like they were my own. And of course, there were a few days, I think any actor will tell you, there are a few days where you just get sort of mentally worn out and it's hard to remember your lines. But it's good training. Any soap actor will tell you, you'll never shoot 50 pages a day in any other art form. So, I've shot some prime time since then, and sometimes it's 3 pages a day, sometimes it's 4, or nothing more than that usually. And
wow. Well, let me.
Makes it a little bit more perspective.
Well, let me ask you this. What if somebody like, speaking of the older generation, and I'm a big fan of hers. I love her to death. She's awesome. I know you probably do too. Somebody like Betty White. How many dialogues do you think she has to learn when she's guest starring on a show?
Well, I think it depends on the show. Boy, she's such a pro. I was watching some reruns of The Golden Girls the other day. She's been doing it so long.
I love the Golden Girls.
Yeah, and she's just a wonderful actress. In any genre. I watched another movie starring Henry Fonda. I think it's from 1955 called Advise and Consent, and she plays a senator. And this is a film really the mid '60s where it might be unusual to see, say, a woman senator on the floor, and she plays the sole woman senator in the film. And it's not a very big role, but it's a very powerful role. And so this woman has sort of seen all sorts of shifts in the entertainment industry and in the world. And I would venture to guess that nothing phases her anymore. She's in her 90s, and she looks great. She sounds great, and she's still sharp as a tack. So
yeah. So what was it like for you working with Brittany Underwood, Kristen Alderson, and Bree Williamson on One Life to Live?
Well, first and foremost, the three of those they are women that I don't think people think about it in this way, but I learned from them. I was still pretty new at this when I got the job, and so many of my scenes were with these women, and all three of them have this incredible skill to memorize faster than anybody I've ever seen. And they were all very patient with me when I have a scene with them. I say, I got to run it again before we shoot it. Is that okay? And I'm still trying to remember my lines. And so they taught me sort of the etiquette of how to be a film actor when I was still learning it. And I could go on about each one individually, but the thing I learned from them the most was, they were so patient with me, and they helped me out so much in saying, well, the more we run this with you, the more comfortable you are, the better off the scene will be. And I remember one day specifically with Bree, because especially in the last year of the show, she and I wasn't on TV without her. All my scenes were with her, and I remember once I said, hey, I got to run this again. And she looked at me and she said, no, you don't. You know this. You know this. Don't put yourself into a panic about it. You already know this. And I saw that. She was like, I guess you're right. And she helped me understand that there's kind of a spontaneity in if there's a slight fear of how is this scene going to go. And I was someone that, I got to make this perfect. And she really helped me understand that it doesn't have to be perfect, because if it's not perfect, then it's human. And that was something that I'll never forget. And she helped me understand that. All three of those women are some of the best actresses that I've ever worked with in any medium. And if a phone call came tomorrow and someone said any one of those three wanted to work with me, I would jump at that in a heartbeat. They're all just fantastic. And specifically, I can speak to both Bree and Brittany because I play opposite them romantically. There's nobody better. They're the best.
Awesome. Do you still keep in touch with any of the One Life to Live stars, like the guys that played your brothers? I know what's his name? Nick
Roebuck.
Yeah, Nick Roebuck, and I can't remember the other guy's name. What his real name is?
Nick and Lenny, and we definitely keep in touch. I was at Lenny's wedding about a year and a half ago, and he and I both live in New York. Nick lives on the West Coast, but I also spent about a year on the West Coast from August of 2015 through 16. And Nick and I saw each other quite a lot out there. And he's a father now. He's got a beautiful young son. And
that's great.
It's not just because we play brothers, but because we actually really got along. And there's a kind of friendship forged when you go through things like that, where you play these things on camera, where a lot of that isn't really acting. You are
and you become like you become like a family because you are family because that's like I remember over the weekend Laura Wright when they were doing the question and answer things who plays Carly on General Hospital, she was saying that I had asked her how she cries and stuff on there, and she said that the scenes whenever they come to her, she just feels the scenes, and everybody else in the cast feels the scenes too, and they become like a family to each other. And she said they are a family. They all stick together, and I mean, I guess working that many days together like that, you do become a family and stuff. And
you sure do. It's because of that. It's something that I think we all felt a tremendous sense of loss when the show was over. Wayne is one of the guys that did hair for us, and he was on the show a lot longer than I was, obviously, for years and years. And I spoke to him about it within, I don't know, 6 or 7 months after the show went off the air. And I said, I wasn't on the show very long, but I feel this emptiness that's gone. And he said, well, David, it's a loss. You have to treat it like a loss of a loved one. He said, I did the show for years, I think even multiple decades. And he said, I have to treat it like the loss of a family member, or, there's a tremendous sense of, you miss the community. We all go in, we gather around a coffee pot every morning, we talk about how our lives are, we go up and we all are working on the same thing, for the good of the show, and, that's not there anymore. That's a loss for anyone.
Well, you just answered one of my questions. I was going to ask you, what was it like when One Life to Live when you found out it was canceled, and you just answered that for me. So, and
I think part of it is also, we found out in April 2011 that we were going off the air, and we had until November to shoot. So it was nice that we weren't canceled and then had no other time. There's some Broadway shows sometimes that are not given any notice; they're just canceled. So it was nice that we at least had the time. And I think when I first got on the show, I read some article about the possibility of cancellation. I think rumors were always swirling or whatever. You got to be careful what you read. But in the back of my mind, I'm just going to save my money and prepare for whatever day I go into work is always a special one. And it made me a very grateful actor. I knew going in every single day that I was lucky to be there and lucky to have the job. And we had these fans that would wait outside to see us and at the studio, and I embraced that because they were the reason why I had the job. That's very important.
That's right. And I was going to ask you, speaking of One Life to Live, now this is 2 other questions related to One Life to Live. Then we're going to move on to something else, but because I don't see any fans asking any questions yet or comments, but I'm sure they will. Speaking of One Life to Live, were you comfortable? Now this question is for the ladies. I do apologize about the dogs barking, but this question is for the ladies. Were you comfortable going shirtless so much on the show?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, I'm also not the first actor to do it. I'm not going to be the last actor to do it. I think, there's just kind of at a certain point you just kind of do what you signed up for, because that's also the that's kind of what it is. I think any actor that does that will tell you that eventually someday I'll be, 50, 60 something years old, and nobody's going to want me to take off my shirt. So it's important to me that I earn my stripes as an actor, whether or not that's the case. But even since doing One Life, I've had to be in various stages of undress on many different shows on prime time. It's happened quite a lot, and it's an extra weight to think about. I got to learn my lines for this, but I also have to be in really good shape.
Yeah.
And I did a movie for Lifetime recently where I didn't have to take off my clothes. And I went onto the set and I thought, this is pretty easy. I don't have to do push-ups. I don't have to do it. I an easy day of work. And I kind of had forgotten that's how that goes. Sometimes you just you get so worried about how you look that you forget that it doesn't have to be that difficult. So
that aired in May, didn't it? On May the 12th, wasn't it?
it sure did.
Okay, yeah, I watched that. That was a good movie. That was a good movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I watch a lot of the Lifetime movies. I know a lot of the One Life to Live characters. You know, have been in them. Like Jessica Morris was in one. Bree Williamson.
Oh, sure.
Been in one. Matter of fact, Jessica Morris was in two where she played on screen with her brother from One Life to Live. You know, named Sam, and the funny thing about it is, in one of them they actually played a love interest, and they were lovers in the movie. So,
oh wow! How strange.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny, and but you know, I see a lot of the soap stars in the Lifetime movies. I've seen Brittany Underwood in, I believe, two of them.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the other ones in them, but I mean they're really good to watch, and you know they're fun to watch, and some of them leave you in such suspense. You're on the edge of your seat, like what's going to happen next, you know.
Oh yeah.
But my last question for you about One Life to Live, and that could change if the fans have any questions or comments. What was it like for you? Because I grew up as a kid watching the original Flash TV show. I loved it. What was it like for you working with John Wesley Shipp on One Life to Live and having him as to play your father on One Life to Live?
Well, first and foremost, John is without a doubt one of the best actors and one of the best people I've ever worked with. I say this smiling because I know I'm not the first person to say it, and I won't be the last person to say it. John's biggest goal whenever he's in a scene with you is to make you look good, and he's not always concerned about himself, and that takes a very special kind of actor, and that also is indicative of his personality. He's one of the most generous and loving human beings I've ever met, and that's why I've since wanted to work with him again. He's the best at what he does, and he's the best at being around when he's doing it. And those are memories, playing his son, those are memories I will never forget, and I will take that with me for the rest of my life. He's truly the best.
Now, speaking of working with him, I know that you've got a show called Powder Burns. Can you talk to us about that? Tell the fans about that.
Yeah, of course. So I've been interested in radio drama since I was a little kid, and I've always wanted to do one. So I think it was about 2014 I had an idea to do a radio drama that would take place solely from the perspective of someone who's blind. So the idea is that the audience is experiencing the show as the lead character is. So I came up with this idea. It's a blind sheriff in sort of a western, and I wrote a couple scripts. I sent one to John Shipp, and I asked him, take a look, and if he'd ever like to guest star on the show, I'd love to have him come and guest star. And he really liked the script, and said he was up for doing anything. And I said, well, why don't you play the lead part? Why don't you play the sheriff? And and he said yes. So I financed the first episode, a pilot episode, out of my own pocket, and we produced that, and then put it up with a Kickstarter to raise more money to do more episodes. We got some funding, and in 2015 we released 4 episodes, and we've recently gone back into production. It's just been hard to schedule, so we took some time off, but we're back in production now. We just released our 5th episode this last month, and we're in production on our 6th. Our 6th episode is going to guest star Ed Asner from Pixar's Up.
Oh, wow.
Television's Luke Grant, Santa Claus from Elf. He was in town shooting a film, and I've got a wonderful casting director who works with me on the show, and she negotiated a deal to get him in, so we got him. Our 4th episode guest stars Robert Vaughn, of course, the original Man
Oh yes, I remember him from the A-Team.
Oh yeah, and so he guest started on the show about a year before he passed away, and so the whole idea was to do a 7-episode series, and we're in production on our 6th now. John is still playing the blind sheriff. I play his deputy, and I write and produce the show. And I've got a wonderful engineer director named Noah Tobias, who's my business partner on the show, and it's a great show. You can listen to it for free. It's all for free. It's on powderburnswest.com. All the episodes are there to listen to so far, and you can also listen to it on iTunes under the podcast Powder Burns. And yeah, we've won some awards. We've had a good run so far, and I think we're going to finish pretty strong. It's gotten some great attention from different Western publications, and I said with the Jimmy Stewart and the Jack Lemmon, I'm an old guy at heart, so these are things that make me happy.
Somebody named Matt Locker just said powderburnswest.com. Thank you so much, Matt Locker.
Matt Locker is one of our guest stars on the show. He plays the preacher.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, he can be heard in episode 2, and he can be heard in 5. He's fantastic in the role. And,
okay.
A good friend of ours, and a great supporter of the show as well.
That's great. Thanks so much for watching, Matt Locker. Continue watching. Now, I want to ask you real quick, David, before I go into any more questions, if you can give a big shout out, because Vicki Borkin, you know her, she is a big fan of yours. She's a big fan of John Wesley Shipp, and she told me about y'all, about the show Powder Burns, and if you could just give a big shout out to Vicki Borkin.
Of course. Yeah, Vicki, if you're listening, or if you listen to this later, not only do I appreciate, meeting you through one life, but I also appreciate you sticking by me even when I wasn't working, and especially listening to Powder Burns. Of course, it's a show that means the world to me because it's from my heart. I've poured everything I have into these episodes, and I appreciate you letting Brian know about it and listening to our show and staying caught up with us. And I appreciate all your support, but I especially because of Powder Burns, it means the world to me that you've listened and you've followed me ever since. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you for that. I know that she'll really appreciate that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Now, I think I'm gonna save this right here to later. This question right here I got for you, because I know a lot of fans out there are probably wondering about this question. But what was it like for you on Gossip Girl?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think any actor will tell you, you go in for 100 jobs and you'll get one. And I remember I was shooting a movie in Philadelphia in 2009, I think, and I was asked to put myself on tape for a role on Gossip Girl, and I was just sure, this is the one. And I didn't get it. Went in for a couple more things, a couple more times, but nothing happened. And then I think my first audition right after One Life was canceled. Was for this role on Gossip Girl, and they wanted a very specific kind of person for it, because he was going to have to play opposite Elizabeth Hurley and sort of be a boy toy for her. And I went in and thought, well, you never know. I've been into this enough times, it's not really up to me if I get hired or not. And I got the job. I was so surprised. And I got to work with Elizabeth Hurley pretty extensively, and she's just a lovely woman, and it's sort of a weird situation to be playing a scene with someone who you had a crush on when you were a little kid, and she kept reminding me. She says, I'm old enough to be your mom, and she made light out of the situation and made me feel very comfortable. And I had sort of forgotten how hot and heavy it had gotten between us on camera until I saw it, or somebody had talked to me about it recently and said, is this you? And I said, oh yeah. I'd forgotten what they had us do. And it was, it was A fun episode. I also, met the major cast members as well. We had a big scene where we were all in there, Blake Lively and
Lee,
everybody.
I can't think of it. Leaton.
Hey,
yeah. I don't even know how you pronounce her name.
Everybody, that show is still a big hit. That's the one that people most often approach me about. I had somebody at the gym come up to me the other day and say, "Oh, were you on Gossip Girl? I'm just on your episode now." And I had no idea.
Now, I don't know if you know this or not. You know the guy, I don't know, I forgot what his character was, but the guy on there with black short hair, that was a younger guy, when he was just a kid, he was actually Kristen Alderson's, or Star Manning's first boyfriend on One Life to Live. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he actually played Star Manning's first boyfriend on One Life to Live. It's on a bridge scene, and she was fixing to run away with him on the show, and he only played on there for a little bit, but it was only for that short time. But that was her first boyfriend on One Life to Live.
Wow.
Yeah, but
you never know.
Yeah, but I forget what his character's name was. He wasn't the one with Blake Lively. He was kind of short. He had black short hair, but I forget what his name was. I think he was with the blonde girl. What was her name? The blonde girl, the young girl on there. What was her name?
On young girl on which one?
Gossip Girl.
Are you talking about?
I think she's a singer now.
Oh boy, I don't know.
Yeah, I think she's like I think she's got a band now or something, and she's I think she still acts. What was her name? But she was the youngest on Gossip Girl because she was the sister of, I believe it was her brother on there that was the one that played Star Manning's first boyfriend on One Life to Live.
Oh, I'm not sure.
But I can't remember what her name was. But she was the youngest of all the women on there. Oh, I know what it was. It was her first name was Taylor, I think. Taylor. I think her first name was Taylor.
I think I know who you're talking about. Taylor Momsen?
Yeah, her, yeah. The guy that played her brother with black short hair, he was the one that was Star Manning's first boyfriend on One Life to Live.
Oh, no kidding. What a small world.
Yeah. Yeah, when he was younger, and I thought that was pretty neat because I had went back when the show aired, and I thought he looks familiar. And I went to his credits and I was looking, and it said One Life to Live. Like, wait a minute, I said, I'll be doggone. I said, that's him. I said, that's the same guy that was on One Life to Live when he was younger, But that's really interesting, though. Now, I saw the movie, Excuse Me for Living, that you were in with Melissa Archer, and I thought y'all did a great job at that,
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And can you tell the audience out there what kind of nutrition that you use yourself to stay in shape and everything?
Well, I'll tell you, it isn't easy. And I find as I get older, it's harder. Somebody asked me the other day how to go about it, and they started telling me, well, I can still have this, right? I know this. I said, well, you kind of have to live like a nun for these things. So I'm a big subscriber to, when it's time to do the work, I'll do the work. But when, it's the off season, I'll have a beer like everybody else. I'll have a burger, or fries, pizza, But it just boils down to a lot of lean protein and the right amount of complex carbs like brown rice and oatmeal and things like that. But it's pretty boring
Yeah.
You have to do the work at the same time. That's the other thing somebody was saying. There's a lot of push-ups, a lot of gym time, and I'm getting ready to shoot something now. So as soon as I'm done with this interview, I'm going back to the gym and gonna hit it again. And just try to make it the best I possibly can. We're in sort of an age now between Henry Cavill as Superman and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, where the bar has been raised on men in Hollywood and how they look. So you really got to keep up and do the best you can. Those guys will tell you that they have personal chefs sometimes making them the right foods for the right time of day, and protein shakes at 4 in the morning. All of that. It's all part of it.
Most definitely. Now, before I get to my last question, this is a question right here that I have been saving for the end, because I know a lot of fans out there will be wanting to know the answer to this question, and I'm going to ask you directly. Since the returns, we saw that ABC has the rights back to One Life to Live and All My Children. Do you think that there's a possibility, since we've seen Bree Williamson on General Hospital as another character as Claudette, but we did see General Hospital bring back Hillary B. Smith as Nora Buchanan from One Life to Live for a short storyline? Do you think there's a chance of them resurrecting or bringing back Robert Ford to General Hospital? And would you be interested in doing that if you got the call?
Well, any actor, I think, would want to work. I would love to work again. I know stranger things have happened as far as resurrecting character. Because I died on the show, I'd be interested to know how they bring it back. I think the biggest hurdle for them now is that I live in New York and the show is out in Los Angeles. But stranger things have occurred as far as hurdles that they've had to jump. Because when we were finishing One Life in New York, they brought in some actors from LA to come back. And, of course I'd be interested. Those are some of the best years of my life. Those are wonderful people and a great crowd. And I know a lot of the One Life crowd has transferred over to GH. And if that comes to fruition, I would definitely be open to investigating that further. I'd also just be curious to know how they'd resurrect good old Bobby Ford, who's been cold, it sounds like, for a couple of years now.
Well, I think one way they could go about doing it, if Claudette, which is played by Bree Williamson on the show, does turn out to some way be if it turns out she is some way a Cassadine, because Victor Valentine Cassadine on there now, who was with Claudette, she had a little girl named Charlotte, and maybe they could say that Helena had you before Helena's character suppozdly died on the show. Maybe they could say that Helena had you frozen and brought you back or something. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, that would be pretty crazy. But I've seen crazier things happen. I mean, I remember.
Yeah, I don't think these soap writers get enough credit for their imagination.
I don't either.
It's a very difficult job that they do, not just to put up a show every week, but to put up a show 5 days a week. You got any primetime show that people love and enjoy happens once a week, and so there's at the most maybe 23 episodes a year.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 23 episodes in maybe a month for a soap. So when people sort of scoff at certain plot twists or whatever, it makes me go, well, I'd like to see you try it. It's pretty difficult, and that's why some of the storylines go the way they do, because there's such a what if we did this, and what if we did this? So I say the more imagination, the better. But try anything. I agree with you. I mean, I think Frank Valentini, does a great job over at General Hospital, and I know that another person you work with, Ron Carvalhotti, is now over on Days of Her Life.
he's
yeah, he's fantastic.
he's on Days of Our Lives now. I think he's the head writer over there. So
Yes, I ran into him a couple months ago, and we just caught up for a little while, and it's so good to see them. Like I said before, a lot of that feeling is family, and so when you see someone, it's like, oh, we've been through a lot together. That man is responsible for some great storylines that I've had on television that, I'm very grateful and indebted to him for that, because he chose to make my character at the forefront of certain things, and that's a great art. That's something that a lot of people have to earn, and he did that for me.
now before I let you go, because I just you're talking about running into people. I did want to ask you what were your thoughts whenever you heard about the person who played Renee passing on One Life to Live?
Here's the thing: it's something we've lost a couple soap legends in the last couple of years.
Yes.
A big one, and it's tough. You know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Especially certain people get to be a certain age. It just it's tragic. All the things that you're never prepared for something like that. But somebody was explaining to me this the other day that we have our favorite shows on television we see once a week. But something like One Life to Live is 5 days a week. So these people really feel like they've come into your home and into your lives, and to a certain degree, sometimes you feel like you really know them. And so a loss in the soap opera community sometimes is felt a little deeper because of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
Yeah, and it's like with Nathaniel Marston. I mean, it with any situation.
That was hard. That was heartbreaking. I tell you, that was
and
really bad.
It's also the circumstances surrounding that situation. So any death is going to be a tremendous loss, but also the circumstances are also going to dictate that as well. But I was thinking about that the other day, and people reach out to me on social media asking me what I think, and I know it's a much deeper cut for them than say, not that it wouldn't be tragic in any other show, but because these people have come into your lives for sometimes 30 years and 5 days a week for 30 years. There's a big loss there, and I hope her family is feels supported, and I'm sure there's a lot of blood going up at the same time, but that's never easy. No matter how much people are praying for you, or there's a time to mourn, and that's certainly well, that's certainly a gut punch, isn't it?
Yeah, and something else I wanted to ask you about, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but I've been hearing this for quite some time. The WWE. I know you know what WWE is.
Yes.
Okay. They say that they have said that they're the longest reigning episodic television show on Monday nights in programming history. Do you think that is accurate, or do you think that's exaggerated? Because I know there's a lot of shows that have come and gone, but I don't know. That's kind of hard for me to mather, even though I'm a wrestling fan myself. It's kind of hard for me to mather that they're the longest episodic show.
Yeah, I think it's tricky because they're also very different demographics, meaning that not everybody that watches soap opera will watch professional wrestling.
Yeah.
I will say, I think that the way the fan base handles itself is very similar in that these people are super passionate about it. I have a buddy in LA who loves wrestling. I mean, he's just so into it, and so this is kind of another situation where it's interesting to see certain wrestlers come out of that and make it bigger in Hollywood. Just like Josh Duhamel was on All My Children, and then he sort of become this movie star, and he was on Las Vegas for so long. And so it's also feel like you kind of get to see people kind of grow up and like. I think it's a bold claim. I think that it can be disputed by both sides, which might be kind of a fun little crossover argument. How do you feel about that? I mean, being a fan of both wrestling and soaps, do you feel like those are fighting words? Do you feel?
Well, I feel that there is, different demographics, like you were saying. I mean, some fans are passionate about both of them, and some fans that watch professional wrestling, they could care less about, soap operas. And some fans that watch soap operas, they could care less about professional wrestling. So, I mean, it's kind of the iffy thing, but I mean, if they were to come on and say that they were the longest episodic weekly program in history, I wouldn't believe it for a minute, because they only air twice a week, and you got the soap operas that air 5 days a week. So I wouldn't believe that. This is
just a bigger body of work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think it's amazing how that you can, memorize so much stuff and so many scripts to learn and stuff on the soaps, or whether it be in the acting field or whatever. It's like a couple months ago I had on Vic Stagliano, who played on Sons of Anarchy, as the one of the knights.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, he was on the show, and he was talking about the different scripts and stuff that have to be learned for a television show or a movie, and talking about on some of it, you get like 3 retakes and that's it, and some of it it's just you go with it and that's it. You don't get no retakes, And I just thought that was so fascinating and everything to learn, and something that really inspires me and amazes me is somebody like Wally Kurth, who has also who's also been on the show before. He's currently playing on 2 soap operas. He's on General Hospital as Ned Ashton, and he's on Days of Our Life as Justin Kiriakis. And to me, to memorize all that material and to be on 2 different soap operas at one time and not get confused and call somebody else from no soap opera, that's absolutely amazing.
Oh, I had trouble with one. I can't imagine doing it at the same time.
Yeah, he does it at the same time. You can see him, just about every day on both of them, and it's incredible. And I'm like, wow,
Wow.
But do you have, now before I let you go, do you have anything you'd like to promote? Any upcoming appearances, and also where can fans find you on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and any other social media?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter at David A. Greg, all lowercase. Pretty easy to find. And we're like I said, we're in production on the 6th episode of Powder Burns. You can hear the most recent episode, our season premiere, which is a really great episode that deals with racism, and we've got a nice good old classic Western gunfight in there.
Okay.
John delivers another great performance. We've got a great supporting cast. And I should mention, one of our guest stars, she's in episode 2. She just appeared in episode 5, and she'll be in our season finale in episode 7 later this summer. It's Florencia Lozano from One Life to Live, and she's come in and done some episodes with us. It's wonderful to see her again. I kept in touch with her, and she's the best. She plays a very difficult role, and when I hired her, I was pitching her to my business partner, and I said, this woman, with her voice, will sound like she has tears in her eyes. And he's like, sold. That's it. That's what I want. And that woman is just one incredible actor. She just really nailed it.
Now, who did she play on One Life Live?
Florencia was Taya Delgado.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah, Taya Delgado. Okay. I know exactly what you're talking about.
She's the best. So, Powder Burns has sort of been my consuming focus in the last 6 months or so. I shot episodes for the Good Wife spinoff on CBS All Access. It's called The Good Fight. So I can be seeing 2 episodes of that. And I'm currently shooting episodes for NBC's Shades of Blue, which will be out next year. And we're shooting a whole band. So
that's great.
Usually when an actor is pretty quiet, when it doesn't look like they're doing anything, that's when they're shooting all their stuff. And so when all of it comes out, they tend to look really busy, but that's probably when they're taking a break. So I'm been a pretty busy bee lately, and I'm happy to be working. It's been great.
Well, before you go, I wanna ask you: Are your allergies doing better? Because I did see that you put on Instagram, I believe it was the other day, that your allergies are better.
Yeah. It's funny. When I was out in LA, I didn't have a problem. Palm trees don't really bloom, and they have the same weather pattern pretty much all year round.
Yeah.
Winter in Christmas in LA is probably about 60 degrees, and that's pretty nice. The New York and the East Coast is a different story. My allergies are a little bit better. I started wearing contacts again. I've been wearing my contacts the last couple of months. But it kind of goes in spurts. Some days it'll be really cold and I'll be okay, and then it'll get warm, and the leaves or the trees start to bloom, and I'm in trouble. So I'm on the mend. I'm proud to say. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, David, to be on the show today. And I know I got your name mixed up the other day. I think I called you Gregory instead of David, but
oh no, that's all right. People in college call me Gregory, and it's easy to switch them around just because it's two first names.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being on, sir, and I wish you nothing but the best, and I'll be sure and stay in touch with you and everything.
You got it. Thanks so much again for the opportunity to come on your show.
Okay, you're very welcome, and I'll share this on to your Twitter and on Facebook and the Instagram.
You got it. I'll be retweeting away.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was David A. Gregory, who played Robert Ford on One Life to Live. I want to thank Matt Locker so much for tuning in to today's show. Thank you so much, sir. It's an honor that you tuned in, being a regular on or a guest star on Powder Burns. And I'll be sure and check out the show. But I want to apologize to everybody now for the lighting. I don't know what is going on with the lighting, but if you've seen me looking around during the live video, it's because of the lighting, because I was trying to figure out what was going on with the lighting, but I don't know what's going on with the lighting, but I do apologize for that. Hopefully next show I'll have that fixed. Later this week I will be announcing the next show coming up. It'll either be on Friday or next Monday. So that's why I'm not announcing anything yet, because I don't know yet if it's on Friday or next Monday. But anyway, once again, I want to thank our guest today, David A. Gregory, who played Robert Ford on One Life to Live, for being on the show. Go and check out powderburnswest.com for all their episodes. They're free. And I'm going to let Mike Mooneyham close out the show as always. And thank you so much for being listening and watching the season premiere. Thank you so much, and God bless.